Hey guys, and welcome once again to the Razer Academy. I'm MrBitter, joined as always by root.tod of Team Root. We've got another replay that we're going to be going through with you today. Today it's going to be Zerg versus Protoss, maxing out maxing out really fast, I should say.
Yeah.
But adding in something new that not all the Zergs are doing yet, and I'm not really sure why. We'll talk a little bit more about it when we jump into game. But before we do that, I want to remind you all to check out our previous videos where we talk a little bit about two-base Muta, where we talk a little bit about how to handle a meching Terran player if you're a Zerg. And we also talk about the Protoss versus Zerg Immortal All-In, how to execute it, and what to do if it goes wrong. So be sure to go check out those previous videos. And, well, Todd, why don't we just go ahead and jump into this one. This is a game played between a couple players who have been living here in the Razer Academy, Gix and JMag. Gix currently teamless, but he's been here for a few months, has had a couple decent runs in MLGs and stuff. JMag recently went back home to Quebec, but was a member of Czech 6 before that team was disbanded, and he plays Protoss at a very, very solid level. The map is Ohana. And I'm just going to tell you, this game is going to look very, very standard. Now, what we're going to see from Gix is a quick max on Roach Zergling, but he's going to add in Overlord Speed and Overlord Drop. Now, this is especially strong against a Protoss player who tries to do the fast 3-base thing that is getting...
Tries to be greedy. The greedier he gets, the less he needs to have.
Exactly.
Basically, a Zerg did this against me on ladder, and I gave the replay to Gix, and I told him this is such a strong build, you should start using it. And basically the build was, you rush to 64 drones, you saturate your bases perfectly, so you have like the best income possible, and then you just get quick overlord speed and drop, and you start dropping a lot. Rendering those force fields kind of useless, because the Protoss usually would just have a perfect wall here, have a perfect wall at his third or close to it, and camp behind his third, the wall, with a lot of sentries ready to force field. But if you can drop, you can just negate that, and you can take the advantage, because Zerg can be maxed much quicker than Protoss at around between 12 and 13 minutes, I guess.
Between 12 and 13 minutes. Honestly, we've seen Stefano max out in like 11 minutes and 30 seconds. Adding in drop does not slow that down by much. So you're basically dealing with the Roachling max, which is hard to stop by itself, but you're giving Zerg exponentially more mobility, as Todd is going to show us some key timings here.
Yeah, so the Zerg player is basically making only drones until he reaches, I guess, around 43 supply, but I'm not sure if that's the exact rule as to when he takes his 2 gases. I think it will be more like 16 in the main, almost 16 or around 16 in the expansion. Then he throws down 2 gases at the expansion. Another
good thing to think about if you're the Zerg player here is 6 minutes is a safe time to take your first gases. That's going to give you enough gas to make roaches and lings against gateway builds. We see the Roach Warren going down around 6 minutes 20 seconds or so.
45 supply.
Which is on 45 supply, which is a really, really nice spot. Evo Chamber is also going down. This gives not only access to upgrades, but critically access to detection in the event of a Stargate play, in the event of DTs. Just very safe, solid, good mechanical Zerg play that we're seeing out of Gix here.
And he threw down a spine. I think this might be because he saw the Forge being chrono boosted here, so he's expecting some kind of early aggression with +1, and he doesn't want to make too many roaches too early. I guess he wants to be able to buy some time, so that's why he threw down this spine, I guess. The very important point with this strategy is to not miss injects. So now he didn't do a perfect job, as you can see, but the better injects you get, the quicker you're going to be maxed.
Yep, I was playing some ladder games today, and I was like, hey, I'm just going to max out against somebody as fast as I can. And then at 13 minutes, I hit 200 supply, and I was like, man, why is my max out so much slower than these top-level pros? And of course the answer is because my mechanics aren't perfect. My inject's not always going down at the exact time. Right now we're seeing Gix responding to JMag's +1 pressure. He's on, I think, 4 gates. He does have +1. And he's just going to try and do something about this third base, but the Zerg player has done an excellent job of sniffing it out and dealing with it. This doesn't kill Protoss. You can invest a few units in trying to pressure this third base, but when it doesn't do any damage at all, it definitely, it hurts a little.
Yeah, and he definitely didn't make as many drones as he could have, just because he was so afraid of this attack, and it was very scary because J-Mac, he took his gases, very nice overload placement by the way, he took both of his gases at his expansion at like 8 minutes, so Geeks might have been scared of some kind of 6 or 7 gates, big pressure, so that's why he made this many units, I think. But now he's just going to take, he's added one more gas in his main base. He's up to 50 drones right now.
And if we go back to the production tab, we can see that he's going to be continuing with that drone and getting a couple of upgrades, even adding a macro hatchery. And a macro hatchery is so important, Zerg players, especially if you don't have perfect mechanics. If you never miss an inject, you might be able to get away with putting off that macro hatch until you've got a 4th base. But when you have that energy slowly stacking up over time, as we can see it has with Gix, who's a very good player by the way, that macro hatchery gives you somewhere to put that extra energy. And
he's almost reached the perfect drone count, 16 in the main, 16 in the expansion. He's on 4 gases already, he's going to add a 5th, and look, he's perfectly saturated on his 3rd as well. And he's already making drop. And burrow, roach speed, +1 for roaches. He's trying to poke a little bit around here. And from now on, it should be only units, basically. Only roaches,
exactly.
a couple zerglings maybe. And basically what you want to do is do a big drop in the main. Especially if Protoss doesn't see it, it's very deadly, you can kill a lot of stuff. And the rally unit, they just go for the 3rd base.
Exactly. You want to spread Protoss out. Now, if we go ahead and look here, we can see that looks like J-Mag is thinking about taking a 3rd base. Let's go ahead and switch into the everyone can. Just so we can see, yes, in fact, that Nexus is down. He has cleared these rocks. He's playing a very solid defensive style of Protoss. He's not overextended, or he doesn't appear to be overextended, but we're going to see just how hard it is for him to defend this aggression when he has to defend his main base, he has to defend his 3rd base, and a Zerg player has the added mobility that comes with drop.
And he started running everything he has toward the Protoss base, and I think we should see those overlords. Yeah, now the overlords coming, and you see this is very early, 11:30. He's already on 150 supply, and he has a lot of roaches. Army supply is 87 to 47, so basically if you can attack in a good angle, it will be good for him. Like I explained before, if he attacks here, it's going to be very hard to deal against this army just because of the force fields. So he decides to poke around a little bit, try to scare the Protoss for a second, maybe bait 1 of 2 force fields. He does bait 1, cancel 1 of the gates, and now we're gonna have the big drop, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to rally all of his other hatches into the 3rd base. Okay, he doesn't do that yet.
He's got a couple of rally points that aren't quite perfect, but critically he's not going to be dropping everything he has in the main base. He leaves a few units there at the 3rd, and this forces Protoss to choose, okay, what to defend, how do I want to handle this? As we can see, maxed out, 12 minutes, 40 seconds or so. This is basically impossible to defend given what Protoss has done here. Taking the fast 3rd base, spreading himself out economically. To be very short about it, he was just playing greedy.
Yeah. The thing is, if you don't see it coming as Protoss and the units drop here, even if you have 150 supply, it's going to be very hard to go up this ramp against this many roaches in a concave ready to attack and kill everything. So now he's just spreading his units everywhere. Those roaches take a lot of time to kill, especially if they are spread out and you don't have a huge immortal force. So the army in the main was cleaned up, but he did get the main nexus. And behind this, he has a pretty strong economy. You see, he's on 2,000.
Yep, 64 drones, that number that you talked about at the very beginning of this video. And the dropping is continuing, attacking in the front of the natural, dropping in the back of the natural, and more units have been rallied in, even killing the 3rd base. Just a brutal timing attack that lines up with the Roachling Max. It lines up with Overlord drop, and it's especially effective when a Protoss player tries to take a greedy 3rd base.
And it's very hard to see for a Protoss, because you just make your observer, and you send it around, and like, I mean, you see the main taking, you see the 3rd base like always, but you can't really know when that's coming. I guess you could figure out at which time the units start being made, and like you can see how many drones the Zerg is on, but realistically it's very hard to say if he's just making a couple roaches to be safe, or if he's just massing them. As soon as you see quick overload speed, this is a big tell, but yes. Like I said, you usually have only 1 observer, so you need to get some very good scouting done, and for a Zerg, I think it's very good to mix in this kind of strategy once in a while.
I think this is an excellent build. It's a style that was actually kind of popular like a year ago, but for whatever reason, Zergs just kind of stopped doing it. And now, as Protoss players are beginning to get greedy again, I think we will see another resurgence of this kind of play. We talked about Roach drop in ZVT in one of our last videos, so here we're seeing it applied once more in Zerg versus Protoss, and it's just so incredibly hard. How would you say to Protoss players they need to, how can they prepare for this? What is the best way for Protoss to deal with this kind of Zerg play?
I think you kind of need to see it coming, and if you know it's coming, you need to leave a lot of army up there, and only 1 or 2 sentries. So you need to basically leave most of your sentries here, so you're going to be able to force field out those units that are going to be rallied either here or here. And if you can wait up there for whatever is dropping, and you need to evaluate how much it's going to be as well. If you have enough army, like if you have 3 mortals up there ready to receive those roaches, and you have a lot of units, just 1 or 2 sentry, you go out and shield them. I think you should be able to kind of deal with this. Especially if you have blink, you can blink micro.
Yeah.
You can maybe get the overlords after you've cleaned up. The hard part is going to be looking at 2 places at once. So basically, you just engage here, use guard and shield, then you look here, and you need to be ready to do those force fields. What happens a lot of the time for the Protoss is that you're looking in the main at those overlords, and you try to micro, and then you look at the third, and already there's been a big run by a lot of roaches and lings surrounding the sentries and basically killing everything. So if that happens, you kind of already lost. There is no room for mistakes here.
So to shorten it up a little bit, pay very close attention. Do not allow your units to be forgotten about somewhere. Split up your army, and that's one of the hardest things to do in StarCraft 2. And it's something that only the absolute best players seem to get right. And be aware of what's happening is really important. For Zerg players, this is a fantastic way to punish greedy Protoss play. If you know you're against somebody that likes to take a fast third base, consider this kind of a play style. It's not impossible to make this work against a 2-base Protoss, but you have to remember that a 2-base Protoss is going to be much more concentrated. He doesn't have as much space that he has to defend, and it's generally better to do things like just continue teching or continue adding to your army, because a Protoss that's on 2 bases at 13 minutes into the game is probably just preparing a big all-in anyway.
Yeah, and if a Protoss is on 2 bases, he's probably going to be waiting in his base, and it's much easier to defend 2 bases. So what you should do maybe is, if you're gonna go drop, you just wait until he leaves his base, and you drop a couple overlords, not too many, just 2 or 3.
Yeah, even just Zerglings.
Yeah.
And that's actually a fantastic point. As soon as you see Protoss leave, you can use drop in that way as well. Guys, this has been another instructional video from the Razer Academy, utilizing Roach Ling drops in Zerg versus Protoss to punish greedy Protoss play. I'm MrBitter.
And I'm Todd.
And we'll see you next time.